Did you know Coralogix natively supports serverless infrastructure in the application? All you need to do is ingest data. In this account, I've ingested data from a Lambda function using the Coralogix telemetry exporter, and this automatically populates all these amazing dashboards. So here I can see, as part of Coralogix APM functionality, we can see our serverless infrastructure. These are all AWS Lambda functions. We can even see which pieces of infrastructure in AWS will trigger this data. So we can see this application here has API gateway triggers, event bridge triggers, CloudWatch logs, and so on. It can be filtered by the different triggers that are available, the region, the AWS account. So if you have a multi-account, multi-region setup, no problem. This dashboard will work really, really well for you. Now, if you explore the Lambda itself, you can begin to see some of the data that's available in there. If we expand this window a little bit, we can see all of the different invocations of this Lambda. For example, in invocations, we can see all the different types of invocations that have happened. Now, these are all successful invocations, but you can also visualize timeouts, errors, and out-of-memory occurrences as well. Likewise, you can also see duration, so how long each function ran, and not just how long it was in total, but how long it took to start up, how long it took to actually do the invocation, and how much was overheads on a Lambda function. And finally, the memory, how much memory was used. So if you see memory spikes in your Lambda function, you know something's wrong. Finally, you can see the cold start frequency. Cold starts are a big problem in serverless infrastructure because they introduce sudden spikes in latency. So the dashboard out of the box enables you to see ways to optimize how your function runs. And at the top here, you can see some basic information like the runtime, the region, how much memory is allocated to it, and so on. And if you think, well, how do I deep dive and how do I explore more of my data? These are all the individual invocations down here. You can see how much memory was used, whether it was successful, and so on, and whether there's a cold start duration attached to this. So you can see this one was a cold start, and so on. If I open up one of these invocations, this actually takes me to the trace, and this is actually a trace linking together the full invocation. So I can see that AWS API Gateway invoked this Lambda on this endpoint, and I can see the HTTP request headers, the X-forwarded for headers. I can see the tags associated with that piece of infrastructure, and so on. Then I can see the Lambda function itself, and I can see the details about the Lambda function that were available in the previous screen, but also things like the request payload. I can see the version of libraries that exist in the application. This is real APM at the code level. And finally, I can see that this Lambda called out to a DynamoDB instance as well. And I can not just see which DynamoDB instance it was, I can see what type of request it was. I can even see the query that was issued to DynamoDB. So in this one UI, I can see a full in-depth explanation of what is actually happening in my system as I go through. And of course, all of this data can be consumed and transformed into metrics and visualized into dashboards. This means you pay less money to hold the data. You can hold it for much, much longer. And it's much more flexible. It can be queried using a variety of different syntaxes like PromQL, meaning you can engage with your data in a million different ways, still cut costs, still stop sacrificing insights, and stop doing that cherry picking of data and start consuming everything and using all of it.